I think we'll get started. So good morning, everyone. It's lovely to see you, and I hope you're all doing well. So welcome to our final Climate Chamber City Roundtable of the year. We just thought it would be a nice idea just to get the network and all of our partners who've been involved in the Climate Chamber mission and the city together before the end of the year, and just to give everybody a little bit of an update of kind of where we are with it. And also an opportunity to really kind of hear from some of the chambers across the network, kind of what's been going on in their worlds, where businesses are at, and how people, what the ideas are around businesses for the climate and for sustainability, and what people have been doing. And we also really wanted to hear from Egypt how COP27 went, and get some insights around that, and kind of if people have plans for next year as well. We also are aware that it has been a little bit quiet on the Climate Chamber City over the last few months, but we're hoping that starting in the new year, we'll really try and build momentum for the city. So just to give people a quick reminder of what the Climate Chamber City is, obviously, I think all of you were involved in the Climate Chamber mission last year for COP26. And really the thought was that we would try to create an online platform where businesses can come together after the event, and it can be a space where businesses can learn together, trade together, and connect together, and it to be a space that really focuses on sustainability, circular economy, and really helping businesses kind of make steps in their journey towards net zero. So Lindsay is going to be giving us a bit more of an overview and giving us a bit more of an update towards the end of the call. But the way it's going to run, we're going to hear from Mark from the Egyptian British Chamber of Commerce. He's going to share about their event in Egypt and share some of what went on during COP27. And then we're going to have a panel discussion Lindsay will host. We have Anita from Israel, we've got Richard from Glasgow, we have Miranda from East Lancashire, and we've got Heather from the Zimbabwean consulate. And then we'll hear from Lindsay, and then I think we'll just open it up to a more kind of general discussion. And if anyone's got any questions or any comments, we can answer any questions and just have a chat kind of around any of the things that have been said. So I will hand over now to Mark, and Mark can share about Egypt.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks for bringing us on, and I'll have a quick 5 minutes. I'll give you an overview of sort of what COP is, what we found of it, how we put our event together, why we felt COP was a little bit different, and how it can sort of really accelerate that business just by being COP. I'll play a video in the background just so you can see. I will try and share. It doesn't have any. I'll turn the sound off. Hopefully, can everyone see that? Is that sort of happening? Yes. Okay. So this year's COP27 took place in the small resort town of Sharm el Sheikh, which was a great venue, but it led to lots of difficulties. We've been in a very small area, so for security, well, things like security and getting this many people in one place at one time led to some challenges and so on. So what we decided we were going to do was hold the event in part of the COP27 venues. Now, for those that don't know of COP27, it's split into 3 or 4 main areas, which consists of the blue zone, which is what you'll see on the news and hear about constantly with all the high leaders and the MPs and so on. The green zone, which is more for the businesses, and that's for the innovation, not only from Egypt, but from around the world. And there'll actually be innovation zones and sort of other zones spread around Sharm el Sheikh. So we decided to get our event as close as we possibly could, and we worked directly with the Egyptian Federation, and we put our event into the green zone. Now, we, from a lot of feedback, decided that people will come for the talks. They like having these discussions, bringing up topics that that don't always come up, and working with businesses they don't always get to talk with. But the big thing of these events, as we all know, is the networking side of it, and actually being able to meet these people face to face. Obviously, after going through COVID and everything, we didn't know how this was completely going to be with face-to-face events, and this is the first sort of event that I've been to that was this international, that had no sort of COVID restrictions. So it's very interesting to see how that got on, how if people were apprehensive, if people wearing masks, if there was nerves around it, and certainly there wasn't. So we split our event into 2 half days, where in the morning we consisted of a keynote speaker, 2 panel discussions. Then the afternoon we left open for networking, which we made this of, we either helped set up meetings, or we allowed our all the people that came to the event to create their own meetings. We had a lunch put together to bring everyone all together. We then helped people move around the green zone and other zones. And then in the evening, there were 2 sponsored networking events, which allowed everything that we had done during the day in a more sort of relaxed environment. I'll give you some numbers and some of the sort of sponsors, because I feel COP can make things happen that wouldn't normally. They bring a much wider set of companies together that maybe wouldn't normally be together at an event, and the level of sort of sponsors and the big name companies that you can get along. So we had 16 speakers in total, from business leaders across many different sectors, from law to oil, education and universities, to sort of the banking sector. We brought together 4 moderators that allowed those discussions and those panels to really work well. We had 3 Egyptian ministers, the British ambassador, and then from our delegation, we brought across 27 businesses from the UK. And in total at the event that came just with us from the Egyptian side and globally, we had 110 different businesses in total. On the sponsors side, we had the array of companies from sort of Vodafone to Standard Charters, Petrofet, Capricorn, UK Export Finance, Dar es Salaam, Lekela, ACCA Global, insurance companies, MISR, and Lavari Law. Now, the reason I sort of just went through all of those quickly was it's important because it's such a high level group of companies, and the prestige that sort of COP gives brings the want of these people to come and interact with other companies of a similar prestige, to be on there, to maybe interact a lot more with government, which is what COP brings that lots of other events don't. You will get ministers and you will get high level government figures that are wanting to showcase their country and particularly want to make business happen there and then. So whether it's signing MOUs or it's really showcasing what's coming up in the future, it's happening there, and they want the headlines to be about businesses and contracts and partnerships that they've got over the line. We obviously welcome that, and it came as not a surprise to us because we were very hopeful, but it was a very nice cherry sort of on the cake that things were happening and these partnerships were happening. And actually, two of the people that came with us on the mission from High Rock signed an MOU with EGAS, the Egyptian natural gas company, while we were at the event, and Fido signed an MOU with Vodafone around the leakage reduction programs across the Egyptian water network. So there was a quick overview of our event and what we had. So what were the takeaways that we took from it? As obviously for us, it was our biggest event back after COVID by sort of a long way. So what we found was that, well, some of the obvious things, that companies really are still looking to do lots of international business and want to go and find contracts abroad. And that if you can put on the right event and get the right people there, that there are budgets from companies to push their advertising, and also to look for these look for other contracts and to create partnerships. Now, we've worked so much over the last few years online and doing what we're doing now, which is a great way to bring a lot of us together very quickly. But so much of our feedback was that these online meetings are the great setup and the way to do it, but there was so much joy that they were getting to do it, and the handshakes and the partnerships we were seeing, in particular from people that wouldn't normally speak together in these companies. And we found there was a lot of conversations of people not only talking about them doing business, but talking about other partners they've got that they do other business with and pulling them into the fray and making and putting together things for after the event to have conversations together. So we found that there's still the face-to-face meetings and networking really do still rule the roost. And by bringing these companies together and starting the right conversations, whether it was through our panel discussions or just at the networking events, to be able to go around and really introduce those people, put them together and say, guys, you just need to meet each other and have a chat. Things were happening. And we felt not only for the deals that were done there at COP, the future sort of conversations were there, but also bringing in companies that weren't actually there and talking about how their other partners could help them and putting those deals together. So then on from that, obviously COP helps with all of this because of the prestige. It's got so much media attention around it without you doing anything that people want to go there, and it creates a huge area of businesses all wanting to work together. It does lead to the decisions making being on there, because generally what surprised us was how the costs of the event, and to be able to do anything in these areas of COP, it just escalated so fast, whether this was getting a bus 5 minutes to a taxi to hotel rooms. It did cost more money to do, which led to people making difficult decisions, for their having to release more budgets, which made it difficult to get going. But that also led that companies pushed forward the real decision makers. It wasn't, they couldn't just send someone, because if they were going to spend that amount of money, they needed to feel they could get something from it or close things down then and there. So we had lots of the decision makers, the people that could actually sign contracts and the people that could make things happen. And I think this was around the COP name. And we found a lot of these, the ministers and so on that came along, did really make themselves available. If you spoke to them, the ambassador, the UK ambassador, Alistair Long, who looks after all of sort of Africa, they were there and they were happy to chat and talk through. And actually, there was a few UK companies that I knew were having some difficulty getting some bits through to trade with Egypt, and he was happy to talk to me for 10 minutes of how we can make that happen and his team going forward. So the ministers and the people there want to make things happen, and we found that maybe that was the COP name that sort of put that together. They want to get those ticks down. And that leads on. So from our point of view, we felt it was a really great success. We've had a lot of good feedback of actual business happening. And we've had a lot of chats with people who are saying, right, we would like to sort of commit to Abu Dhabi and to Dubai sort of next year. So we're hoping to wrap up all of the companies that we had and bring those along. And also there was a lot of Egyptian companies that came only because it was in Egypt, that I think found they benefited from it a lot more than they would have if they'd gone to another country. So I think they were also looking at expanding and carrying on and hopefully coming to COP28. So there's just a little overview. I'm happy either now or afterwards to take on any other questions or talk about anything that happened, sort of a bit more micro. That was a bit of a macro overview and the bits that I sort of wanted to share, but I'm happy for any questions now or after. And sort of, see, we're working with the guys at the Abu Dhabi Chamber and some of the other chambers to sort of start now, because we found like we do have to start now to set this up, because everything just doubles and triples as we move along. So it's worth thinking and acting on it fast if you think some of your members would like to come along to COP28.
Great, thanks so much, Mark. That was really helpful. I think what we'll do is we'll probably do questions at the end instead. So if anyone has any questions, we can do that later on. Lindsay, I'll hand over to you now for the panel.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where everybody is in the world. I'm Lindsay Boyd, and I am the founder of One Earth. Richard and I put our heads together at COP26, and we decided to launch a legacy project so that we could bring the chambers all around the world, the global chambers, together to create an alliance so that they could connect together, learn together, and trade together to really go and impact change in the world. So we decided to have this panel discussion now, and we've invited Richard and Miranda and Anita and Heather, and they're all going to come on now and chat on the panel about really where things have moved to since COP26, and now we're at COP27. I've been on the journey with Richard and Seren over the COP26 year, so you know I've been watching with fascination, and we wanted to have this discussion. So with the four of you, I just want to also say that we are going to open up the questions at the end. So we're going to leave a good 10-15 minutes at the end to allow the other chambers to participate, because even though there's only these four chambers on, we really do want to hear from all of you about what's going on in each country. But I am now going to open up the discussion. Richard, before I give a kind of a question to all panels, I'm just going to ask you, where is your head at from COP26 to COP27? Because you passed the baton over to Egypt. So before I kick off with all the other questions, can you just give us 1 minute on that? You're on mute, darling.
Sorry. Schoolboy error. Apologies. Thanks, Lindsay, and good to see everybody this morning. Great to have the conversations. Yeah, we're in a pretty good place, Lindsay. I mean, I think from a Glasgow perspective, we had an event about a month ago, which marked the first anniversary, you know, beyond COP26 for COP27. We had a really good attendance. We had some brilliant businesses there that were presenting, and I'm happy to go through a couple of those. But we had great presentations from Glasgow Airport, big corporate business, and some of the exciting things they're doing around zero emission flights, hydrogen storage, solar farms at the airport to power the airport, the wind energy consortiums that they formed. So great examples of corporates doing big things, and then good examples of smaller businesses like ACS Clothing, Advanced Clothing Solutions, who took part in the mission last year, who are involved in rental and resale of fashion brands. And, you know, really exciting times for them. They've now got 3 million items in stock currently. They clean 45,000 garments a week on site, and they have 99.8% of viruses eliminated when they clean their product on an O3 ozone cleaning system. So some great examples of corporates doing brilliant things, great examples of smaller businesses doing great things. We made a big presentation a year on. I'm happy to share that later with everybody that's on the call, because there's a lot of items there. And just very quickly, I mean, what we looked at during COP were 4 key pillars. We looked at strategic leadership, and particularly working with partners at Glasgow City Council around sustainability issues and their green print, working with BCC and Miranda on the climate change group. We worked on business engagement, and we did loads of leadership issues. We had speeches from the chief exec of Nokia, Nestle, Professor Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate, and Prince Charles, as he was at the time. We had a whole raft of skills projects that we've introduced, including Step Up to Net Zero. So we've got 40 funded places for young people for 4 months who can go into businesses and help those businesses to become net zero. That's all Scottish Government approved. And then finally, there was the international pillar, and that's very much what we're all here to talk about today, is how can we internationally do more to connect together, as you said, Lynn, and ultimately together. And how do we get this movement and this community bigger and in shape, and it almost becomes a community that is feeding off each other, talking to each other, learning from each other, and ultimately doing deals, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? We want to make sure that we're getting profit for our members, but it's very much a purpose-led business. So yeah, lots of great stuff that's going on. Great to hear the progress Mark's made in Egypt, and like Mark, we've already got members who've said that they're interested in going to Abu Dhabi, Dubai next year. So we want to get this community into a really robust condition ahead of that. That was a long 1 minute.
Richard, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the rest of the panel, and I'm going to We're interested to know, you just heard from Richard, you know, the whole purpose of setting this community up was to trade together, to be able to help businesses understand how to drive a circular conversation, how to lead sustainability, how to race to net zero. And through all of that, innovation is probably at the heart of everything that a business needs to do. So could I ask the other three of you, what do you think that innovation and, you know, successful case studies have been coming about for yourselves over the last year? I'll start with Anita. What innovation and successful businesses has been happening for you? What turnaround have you seen taking place? You're on mute. Mute, Anita.
You lost all my opening.
No
Okay.
problem. That's fine. Start again, though. Thank you.
You can lips reading. Anyway, thank you and hi everyone. Great seeing you in Glasgow. Thank you for keeping up the light. Miranda, Anne-Marie, I'm so happy to see you here. So look, it's so complicated. It's such a multi-layer subject. We cannot, I cannot really answer a question with one sentence. But I do think that this is a very, very important discussion to raise the importance of awareness to the issue. For me personally, and for the group of companies that came with me, and later on the whole membership and connection, Glasgow was something that was really eyes opening. It's not that we didn't know that we have huge problems in the world. Personally, I'm involved in this area for many years, but something happened there, and this is just amplifies the importance of such gathering, of such, as Richard said and Mark said, in-person meetings. Because we were there with many companies and thousands of, actually dozens of thousands of people at any given moment in the streets, and everyone just wanted to do something good for the world, which is really very rare in these times where we are living in. And we need to take it forward. As chambers, we are not really marked and colored as climate changers. It's not our profession, but we can really drive voices and business and solutions. So it's a very short sentence to a very, as I said, multi-layer thing. So we need to create meetings. We need to meet. I really would like us to discuss the COP28, and I'm really sorry and apologize I didn't attend COP27. There is so much going on. We couldn't just make it. Since COP26, what happened in Israel in terms of the chamber, I'll be very short, we just kept doing everything in the direction of green. So even if we had, for example, a real estate event, I asked each and every one of the participants to emphasize the green angle in construction, in energy efficiency, in everything that can just help in this thing. So this is just one example. Another thing that was created was our involvement with a lot of organizations and groups that are advancing the whole idea and the subjects. These are very professional organizations, professional in terms of environment. And this is, again, a whole story that I'll be happy to share in more discussions. Everyone has a huge challenge to create solutions, to go forward. And this would lead me to the main thing that is happening here in Israel since then, the innovation, the climate tech innovation. And unlike cyber or fintech or any other tech solutions, the climate tech can be just an umbrella. You have not only different areas like agri-tech, food tech, finance and all of these things, you also have solutions and also have measures to measure the solution, if this is really efficient, and all kind of very, very different features. One thing I can tell you is that in the last year, there is a waking up of new startups that are looking for solutions in Israel that is unprecedented. It's like a burst of ideas. And this is something that happened, I believe, because of the involvement of governments, of our government. The then Prime Minister visited, there was an allocation of a budget. But again, it is not enough, because without legislation, and the main issue is finance, because money here is the main thing, these startups cannot go forward. Now, I don't want to take all the time talking about it, but this is our focus, the solution. I'm not praising or showing off when I'm talking about Israel, about legislation or big things that we're doing. We are still in a very early stage of the process. We are not achieving a lot, but a lot of things are being done around. I see awareness, as I said, lots of companies that are trying to do something for the environment internally. One example is very interesting, is KPMG. You wouldn't expect such a conservative, ancient almost organization to be leading, but in Israel, they are amazing. Internally, they took on themselves a lot of measures to become a real excellent ESG organization. And they appointed a young partner that is dedicated on promoting the whole thing. I understand that this goes in line with the KPMG global policy. I can tell you that in Israel, we are in close contacts. We are now working on a program. I hope that this would create some fruits for COP28. And I hope that we shall have time to talk a little bit about COP28, because the whole organization, we as chambers, is something that we really need to take forward together.
Thank you very much, Anita. I loved what you said about we all need to now come together to do good for the world. You know, Richard and I, one of the reasons why Richard had the vision for the Legacy Project was to move people from a space of silo and move them into a space of integrated, so you can all come together. And recognizing that green and the green economy, I know that Chris is on the call today from Indonesia, the green economy plays a huge part for Indonesia and so forth. And acknowledging that new startup businesses are actually where the energy of innovation really is, and how innovation is really going to be driven from actually the younger businesses that can help larger organizations innovate and move forward. So I really love what you said there. Lydia, from a Zimbabwe perspective, what do you think the challenges and opportunities are for Africa? Because they could be, I believe, quite different from the rest of the world. And I'm interested to hear your take on what's happening and how the vision for that can occur.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hello, everyone. Good to see you here. With Zimbabwe, there have been serious challenges with the energy, with the power. There are serious power cuts as we speak right now. Zimbabwe has been relying on thermal power and hydroelectricity from the man-made lake, which is Kariba. I think it's the biggest man-made lake in the world, but the water levels are very low. So this has been affecting power. There's serious load shedding, which is affecting businesses. But also just to let you know that there is the Business Council for Sustainable Development that has been popularizing the low emission mitigations with the private sector and the public sector. And the low emission development strategies in line with the government of Zimbabwe's vision for Zimbabwe becoming the upper middle economy by 2030. So they've been focusing more on renewable energy and energy efficient initiatives, the climate smart agricultural practices, low carbon transport systems, sustainable forest management and solid waste management, and sustainable industrial development strategy. So what the companies have been, businesses have been focusing on at the moment is really the transition and the improving energy efficiency, alternative energy resources, and sustainability reporting. The examples of these businesses is, for example, a cable manufacturing company which implemented a zero waste to landfill. Also, big mining houses are now implementing solar PVs, 100 megawatts solar PVs. The beverage manufacturing companies are also installing solar panels, and solar it may be equivalent to 1 megawatt PVs, and the fertilizing companies are also implementing solar. So these are the main opportunities that are available in Zimbabwe right now to move into the renewables. And the business is experiencing a lot of financial and technology transfer transition difficulties. So I think for this platform, that would be maybe something to consider to see if there can be those collaboration and partnerships with the Zimbabwean businesses as they're going through this transition period. So they expect also sustainable energy and sustainable secular economy, looking at the low capacity of institutions, enterprises, and individual funding. So there is also opportunities in carbon trading. Yes, and what they are looking for the theme for COP28 is sustainable business solutions to the climate crisis. I was also speaking to the Institute of Engineering that were in Glasgow recently. So Dr. Tammy, she spoke more of the companies trying to understand the conditions of the various transition funds, the reason for low uptakes, so as to be able to access them, and building projects preparation skills, redefining power supply options to meet the need of the country, given the financing for new thermal power stations have been withdrawn. So they're also trying to build networks in the areas of carbon financing. And also we have the Zimbabwe Electricity Supply Authority, which plan to develop hydro assets that will be operated on the river basins. As you know, in Zimbabwe, we have big rivers. It's a landlocked country. We don't have the sea. We don't have the ocean, so we depend on the rivers and lakes. So these hydro assets will be operated on river basins against the individual reservoir rules among reparation of states, and also intermittent renewable assets such as wind and solar to save on the storage and maintain the system stability. On COP26, they were also focusing on COP28, and they would like to see the solutions of the COP conferences, if they can be moved to practice instead of them remaining as issues of debates. And also to focus on improved energy efficiency so as to benefit from carbon credits. So this is some of the things that the businesses in Zimbabwe are saying, and reforming financial institutions to drive carbon neutrality and carbon mitigation technologies.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Gosh, I made a million notes from what you just said then. And I sit here and I really reflect, Richard, on the wealth of knowledge, and even just from having 5 minutes, 10 minutes with each country, listening to Israel, Zimbabwe, I'm coming on to Miranda in a minute, but actually recognizing the power of the alliance that sits here and the businesses that can come together to be able to create, like you just said, sustainable business solutions for all, to be able to move from, you know, into practice, to be able to create solutions rather than, you know, still in the talking phase, which is where we have been. And I believe that with this alliance of the chambers that are even just sat in this group, you have enough knowledge from the businesses that sit underneath that you could actually make a sustainable change for all. So thank you for that. Richard.
Lindsay, if I can just come in very quickly. Yeah, absolutely. And great to hear everything there from Lydia. Thank you, Lydia. We had the pleasure of meeting about 10 days ago. Lydia brought a senior Zimbabwean delegation to Glasgow, which was really illuminating. Great legacy from COP26. They shared a great example of a fabulous business on purpose called Power Life, which is a Glasgow-based business who are working in Zimbabwe with empowering chargers for children. So these are solar panel light torches, which are corporate gifts for companies like Swisscard. Swisscard buy them, and for every one that they buy, they donate a free one to children in Zimbabwe to help them with their education at nighttime so that they can study at night. And basically they've affected over 24,000 lives. And those children are now getting better school grades because they're able to use that light as a torch at night when they might not have the power to study. They can now study. So there's a great example of, you were talking about innovation, Lindsay. There's an innovative Glasgow-based, Scottish-based business working in Zimbabwe with big corporate brands with a great purpose in life to try and help children in their educational attainment. So we've had legacy since COP26, and it was great to see the Zimbabwean delegation. We also had a great delegation visit recently from Alexander and the British Chamber of Commerce Germany. They also had loads of great examples of companies in photonics, for instance, lasers, who are doing wonderful things and saving loads of carbon and changing lives and reducing consumption in data centers and fertilizer use and reducing resources in manufacturing and enabling recycling. So it's great that we're doing deals, and we're seeing the guys from British Chamber of Commerce Germany, and we're seeing the guys from Zimbabwe. We also visited Norway earlier this year, and British Chamber Norway as well. And we've got a follow-up mission to Germany next year. So things are happening, guys. Don't be too down that there's not enough happening. You know, we need to get our companies mobilized. We need to get these great success stories. And sorry, I'm taking up too much airwave. I should hand over to Miranda, but it was great to hear Lydia's contribution there. Thank you.
That was brilliant, Richard. One of the things as a takeaway from today that I was going to ask everybody is, obviously one of the things is to get registered on the Climate Chamber City, but the second thing is we want to start sharing and showcasing the case studies. And the reason for, and getting the businesses onto the platform, but the reason for that is if we can show the trades that are taking place, if you can commit to showing one trade, let's just start with one, you know, like you just said, Richard, that one that you just mentioned, which is Glasgow and Zimbabwe, then that shows best practice. It inspires other businesses. They would then, you know, even my company sits there and go, we could give the education side to the light. People will start thinking about multiple trades taking place with one trade, and that would inspire people to create innovation. So I'm going to go to Miranda. Miranda, I know you were at COP. You were there firsthand, like I was as well, and I was able to experience it. But from your perspective, what was it like at COP to be able to be there, and how is that then translating back to Lancashire with your businesses and the innovation that's taking place?
Thank you. Yes, it was one of those things that was both fascinating, chaotic, totally geeky, absolutely mad, exhausting, all in one go, totally addictive. And you'd all find it exactly the same. I think it's about pulling together what we're doing at home and where we can make a difference. So my dog is now choosing to be noisy, having been quiet for the last 4
It wants to join in.
But no, now it's being noisy. Let me just bribe it with a bone. We, as you know, we run what's now being spun out into a low carbon innovation agency, which, although based in Lancashire, is now actually working across the UK, which is called Red Cat. And we work with low carbon technologies that have been developed now, not just in Lancashire, much wider than that, and help them commercialise in an accelerated way with public but also private sector funding. So over the last year, we've seen 9 of those companies actually be taken forward with the in-depth support that we offer, though we work with hundreds. And they have gone from a period of not manufacturing to now having all 9 manufacturing, a couple of hundred jobs safeguarded, about 100 jobs created, about £4 million of inward investment into Lancashire by the end of this year, but estimated to be about £32 million in 2 years' time. But when we were in COP27, what we were talking to Ngozi, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, the Director General of Sustainability for Coca-Cola, and a whole variety of other businesses and governments, was about how exactly the kind of low carbon innovation you've been all talking about, the need and the opportunity for, is the solution to what COP is working toward. Because we heard all of the discussions around loss and damage, and very painful discussions around loss and damage, and around the setting up of that fund. That has the potential to end up in a blind alley where you've got a fund set up, but you're then falling out about what to do with it. And is it reparations? Is it payment? What is it? But if that is actually used to get technologies deployed into emerging economies, into economies under threat from climate, that can then help them both mitigate that climate damage, but also have their economies emerge at pace without going through the same oil and gas and coal route to do that. So actually all of the technologies, all the trades we've been talking about, all the opportunities for developing those new technologies, they are the solutions we need to be giving to the conversations at COP, to the international organizations working on this. This is how we really get our businesses successful, but also solving the problem. And to get very geeky, the bit I want to focus on at COP28, I think it's bullet points 70 and 71, which are only about 2 lines each, and they were about how do we deploy technology. And that's the bit which needs to be a whole paragraph and a great big discussion. They were the discussions I actually sat in on at COP28. We were really at COP27. We were really lucky to be in those discussions and hearing those discussions and feeding little notes to our British contingent when we managed to get him at coffee break. But those are the bits where I think businesses can help drive forward the solution making. And I think that's where we could be really good. I'd love to have the conversation, and I think this is just the beginning, about how do we plan for COP28 to make it really front foot. And 2 things I would give us to start that off. One is that there is a UN procurement summit in March in Copenhagen, where we're going to try and get some of our technologies there, because that's where they need to be seen. The second is that the International Chambers of Commerce position at the COPs is really unique, where they're running that central bingo session and events around bringing together the whole of the business and industry NGOs. They are a really good nexus for us to work through, and we need to use our connections to work through them to reach the maximum possible audience when we're there to be as effective as we can be. Thank you.
That was brilliant, Miranda. I mean, so articulated so well. And I also loved what you said about number 70 and 71 about deploying technology. I mean, you know, without that, I'm not quite sure how we move forward, because tech enabled has to be underpinning everything that we now do. You also said about, you know, the chambers, the uniqueness of the chambers is bringing international business and industries together. You know, that is what you're sat on as a huge asset for all of you. And I believe if all the chambers came together, then you have enough innovation between you to make that change and to make a huge dent. Okay, so I just want to ask each one of you in a quick fire round. You've got 10 seconds to tell me your one key thing from COP to leaders from, you know, COP 27 to COP 28. What is the key driving thing that's going to underpin for you that you're going to take us forward? So Lydia, I'm going to start with you. What's your one key thing that you think underpins everything for you for the next year?
I think I agree with what the Zimbabwean businesses are saying and looking for to move into practice instead of relying on debates or continuing with these debates. We need to see some action there.
Perfect. So yours is about no longer debating, but actually taking action, which I would wholeheartedly agree with. And like Richard said, I do believe people are taking action, but now it's about bringing more people together. Richard, what would you say that your key theme is for the year?
Yeah, getting trades going, Lindsay. So yeah, trying to have practical examples in our case where Scottish companies are doing business with our colleagues, whether they're in Israel, Egypt, Lancashire, Singapore or Germany. So we've got some good examples of businesses who started conversations a year ago. And what we need to do is kind of track those, curate them, make sure that they are following up and that deals are being done. So there was a really good example of Lanzatech, a biofuel business based in America, who were speaking to a small Scottish outdoor business that make tents and outdoor camping gear. We want to make sure that those partnerships are flourishing, deals are being done in an ethical way.
Brilliant. And Lanzatech, I believe, got into the Earth shot with William and our Prince William and Catherine recently. So that's quite an achievement, isn't it, for a brand like that, for a business?
Yeah, absolutely. They were shortlisted. They're an amazing business. I mean, for those of you that didn't see them in Glasgow last year, they are turning carbon emissions into fabric, and they're winning contracts with Lululemon, the yoga wear business. And they're doing deals to recycle truck tires in America. They're just absolutely brilliant. And we will try and get Jennifer Holgram, the chief executive, to come and speak to us at the British Chambers next year.
That would be fantastic.
Going to get in touch.
Yeah. Miranda, what's your key driver for the year, please?
I'd like us to be planning from now, really, what our plans are going to be for bringing delegations to COP28.
Brilliant.
And to make sure that we have joint events and space with the British Chambers of Commerce worldwide and the International Chambers of Commerce. So we're right in that central space, and that we've got our delegations lined up early so they know they're going, so they really make good business out of it. But so we're right at the centre of the eye of the storm, really.
Brilliant. And Anita, what would you say that your driver is for the year? Oh, you're on mute, darling. Mute. You're on mute. Could you say that again?
Yes, I'm following Miranda's direction in a way, because we are at a BCC conversation, and I think we need to leverage this amazing power that we have together. And I agree that we need from now to focus and decide how we do it, because this is not a trivial thing. We are from many, many countries, and we are colored in a British origin, and which is great. But we need to make an impact in each country. You have all kind of organization and delegations that would go to COP28, we need to find the way, and I think we can, how as a British-oriented organization can take our place in a meaningful way and to really create a good platform to connect businesses and to make the world better. And it's not an easy mission, because as we said, it's not like cyber or fintech, it's a multi-layer subject. You have agriculture, you have food, you have energy, you have whatever you want, you have. So, and so many countries. At the same time, this is our strength. We are bringing over something very, very unique. So we need to dismantle this difficult formula and to see how we create something that would not be just, you know, to visit here and there. We need to be to have a presence of our own. I think that COP28 would be a big event. For us in Israel, it would also present a regional opportunity with all our neighbors and things that we are challenging together that can affect the whole world, because it's not national anymore. You know, this is the beauty of this conversation and of this organizing us as a group. So for me, it really, to start, as Miranda said, from now, to find the right structure that would have the impact and the precise plan how we find our place in COP28.
Thank you. So with the last 5 minutes, Seren, probably my suggestion would be that we open the floor to a Q&A, and then we just show the QR code at the end for people to be able to onboard onto the platform. My suggestion as a takeaway would be that we set up this round table, and we have, you know, we've invited 10 global chambers from around the world to participate. It's not exclusively for 10. It was just that that's where we started, Richard, wasn't it? But what I would suggest is that we have this as a steering group, as a round table once a month. And we do this from COP27 to COP28 so that we can come together and collaborate. We can set an agenda for each month's activity of what we want to achieve. We can set a goal of what we want to achieve by COP28. We could set 3 milestones and have this round table on a monthly basis so that we can actually, like Lydia said, stop talking and start doing and have some practical things that are going to come out of this. So, Seren, do you want to open the floor up to questions?
Yeah, thanks so much, Lindsay. And yeah, I think that's a great suggestion in terms of getting the group together and meeting on a regular basis and really trying to understand early how we can really set that kind of pathway towards COP28. And Miranda, like you said, wanting to get businesses to actually know that they're going to be going to COP28 early, and we know who the delegations are so that they can make the most out of next year. I'll open the floor up now for questions.
Ellen's got her.
Ellen, yeah, you were in there first, and then Richard.
Yeah, thank you. It's very interesting to hear and also to listen about what you learned at COP27 in Egypt. My main goal for COP28 is that we can highlight circular economy as a thematic day on COP28, focusing on practical examples from businesses. Is it possible to align all the Chamber of Commerce going together and push the governments to include circular economy as one day? This is for COP28, and for COP29, we have the next step is to include circular economy in the NDCs, in the Paris Agreement, as a tool to both achieve the climate goals and to stop the lack of biological diversity, because we have to address both the climate crisis and the nature crisis. Thank you.
One of
Thanks,
the
Alan. Yeah, I was just
and one of the things that that Richard, I know, the vision was to set this chambers up was exactly to do that, Emma, was to bring the chambers together as an alliance and understand what the need is. And circular is one of the most powerful things that businesses can do. And if we set up this group together, then we would be able to, as a powerful force, be able to change policy, because you've got the chambers working together.
That would be wonderful. If and it would be so nice for the chambers of commerce to have this force together.
My suggestion, therefore, would be that we maybe take that and discuss with Anne-Marie and Miranda and the climate change British Chambers group, and perhaps between us we can put that down as a priority, something that we want to try and make happen. All I was going to say in addition to that was one of the milestones, and I think the monthly meetings is a great idea as well. So thanks for that, Lindsay. Glasgow Chamber are launching, or have launched, an event called Conference of Business, which will take place in the spring. We still have to absolutely identify the date, but it's likely to be March or April. But it's going to be a festival of business around COP-related issues, and particularly around the Glasgow Climate Pacts that were agreed in last year in Glasgow. But it's a full festival of business. It's going to be a hybrid event. There'll be a big event in Glasgow, but it'll be available online as well. Scottish Government have got behind that. So we can put that down as one of the milestones for the group, because we'd love everybody in the group to attend that event, either in person or, if that's not possible, certainly online. So more information to follow, but I just wanted to make sure that was one of our milestones as well. Thank you.
And Seren, I think Mark wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
It was more a bit of a takeaway from what we've all been discussing there, and what the future will be in for COP28. And I think with hindsight, looking back on some of our setup on COP27, looking back now is to see how a group like ourselves and this forum here, we can really shape what we want areas of COP to be. We can define lots of that in the areas that we want spoken about and the businesses that we take. So I think if I was doing it again, I would certainly want to create a committee like this to discuss what we would like pushed forward, what we would want COP to be about, and then use this with the guys in Abu Dhabi and Dubai to say, how can we best work together and do it as a larger group rather than a small group putting on an event that we think's best. Listen to the companies that we've all got and really see what we want the conversation to be about, that may be different from what COP28 is about. That may not be exactly what we're after. So I think, again, having this conversation, figuring what our businesses really want, and us as a group looking for those opportunities. And if we can do it now and start now and start those conversations, COP27 for me was a great way to close deals, and it was a great way to start conversations off. So if we can aim to put people there to start these conversations, but also build bits up now for them to be closed and signed, because it is such a big, and the eyes of the world are on it. People want to get pen on paper there because they get the photos with the ministers, they get this in, and it creates highlight for COP. So I think having this, we can really decide what we'd want our COP28 to be. And it's certainly what I would have done if I was in December last year and I had what I knew about. So I think basically that's summing up what everyone's sort of said there, what they'd like from COP28. But I think it can come from us. And if we take this to the guys at Abu Dhabi and Dubai and say, look, this is what we would like pushed forward, they're on the ground and can make that happen and get us the best event sort of going, whether it's inside COP like we did or outside. So I think this is a great time. It's a great time to start, and I think it's a great group as well, guys.
Thanks, Mark. And yeah, no, I totally agree with that, and definitely think we need to kind of start planning as early as possible. I know we're kind of short for time, so if you have to go, please drop off. I just wanted to bring in very quickly Anne-Marie Martin, just to see if you have any kind of final comments that you wanted to share from BCC.
Yes, sorry, I'm not at my best. I'm full of this lurgy that everybody's had. It was inevitable that it would catch me because pretty much everyone in the office had it last week. So You're right. We are going to start early. I think that's really important to know. There's a small group convening. I think the wider group, absolutely. We have a global task force. Let's just use it. This is the new global task force for COP28. But there will be a small group convening early January, which will be Miranda, Richard, myself, Alison, Suren, just to get that initial conversation going. There's some conversations directly with ICC in Paris at the moment. They're looking to organise an SME day at COP28. We clearly have to be front and centre of that as the British delegation. So there's lots of moving parts at the moment, but we are very conscious that we need to bring all that together. And also, I'm really, really keen that we find a way of capturing all the case studies. Lindsay mentioned it. There must be a way through the central platforms that the BCC has to be able to amplify that globally. So that's one of the tasks, I think, one of the milestones we need to think about, because it's all very well all us doing this, but if we're not telling the rest of the world, then they don't know what we're doing either. So it's really, really key. So that would be really, really important. And I'm also really keen, and Richard knows, is that we look at what does the programme leading up to COP28 look like. So rather than just a campaign near the end, is how do we progress that? And COB is definitely part of that. We've been speaking to Alison a lot about how the BCC can help amplify that as well. So lots and lots going on, and I'm really conscious of it, and I'm really keen that we do bring it together. So we're going to start with that small initial group just to consider these ideas, and then create and sort of leverage and get that larger global task force going to actually work through it going forward.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. And I think that's absolutely crucial what you said there about actually capturing the successful outcomes and being able to showcase the innovation that's going on. I'm very aware of time, so I know Hadil, I think you've got your hand up. I don't know if you want to come in very briefly, and then I think we'll have to call it.
Hi, Serene. Hi. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So it was very pleasure meeting you all. It was really interesting panel discussion. I just have a short and quick question to Mark about the Egyptian British Commerce, Chamber of Commerce. Do you think that if Egypt has a leading role in launching Africa's first carbon credit market, do you think that the Egypt government will be able to invest in these kinds of projects to help other African countries to reduce carbon emissions? Is the Egyptian government able to help the other African countries? Because
Yeah, well, I think it's a difficult time for Egypt as a country with their trade and their economy and so on. But as what COP brings to these countries, if there is a time to sort of ask that question and to get these countries on board, then I think now would be the time, and it is probably the best time to be able to ask that question. And something certainly I'd be happy to sort of help them through my chain to push that to happen. But with a lot of these countries, it is a difficult time economically, and there's a lot of turmoil with trade in general. But the joy that COP brings is that they obviously want to showcase this, and they want reward from having the COP and to invest in these. This is why they took the event on at the starting place. So let's certainly, I'd hope that they'd be open to it, and I hope that now would be the time that they'd really want to do it quickly. So let's speak after and see if I can help, if you've got someone on board, really.
Yeah.
I would add to that. I think they need a lot of help to make that happen.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think now, yeah, we'll kind of finish up. And what I'll just say is I will, for the Climate Chamber City in general, we will be creating communications that we'll send out on a regular basis. So we'll make sure that we do that. So keep an eye out for the Climate Chamber City specific emails, and we can kind of use that as a channel to really kind of get the group together. And we'll also put in maybe the next roundtable in January or early February, so that we can really bring everyone together again. But hopefully we'll share the QR code, and we'll hopefully, if you can register onto the platform, that would be amazing, and we can use the platform really as a space where we can share new stories, we can share innovations, perhaps at the moment just as chambers, and we can kind of get used to it, because I'm aware that not everybody has registered onto the platform. So if you can register on, have a look around the platform, see what you can do with it, and then we can start to try and get businesses onto it. Lindsay.
We're trying to show the QR code so people can quickly scan the QR code. I know Faye's trying.
Yeah, it's not letting me share my screen at all. So unfortunately, I can't seem to
maybe
share.
just send it round, Faye.
It's in the invitation. It's in
Oh,
the
it's in the
invitation
invite.
for today.
It's in the invite, so people can scan it there and register on. And perhaps in the next roundtable in January, we can do a little bit more of a detailed overview of the platform. We can kind of go into it, show everybody what it looks like, and see where we go from there.
Sounds like a
And
good
Seren,
idea.
if you need me to put anything in the weekly update for the rest of the network, just throw me
That would be
something.
amazing.
That would be fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great.
By Wednesday latest, though, otherwise they'll kill me in the team.
Yeah. And we'll send around the date for the next meeting this week as well before folks finish up for the holiday season. But lovely to see everybody today. Thank you for all of your contributions, and have a great holiday if and when it's coming in the next few weeks for everyone as well.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Merry Christmas.